Hi Mum! You do everything for everyone else. Let me help you make your life easier. Quick, short information to make you empowered and remind you why you are so important. Because if you don't know what's on the menu, how can you choose what's right for you? Hi, I'm Alina, Director of my private practice Supportive Therapy, an everyday Aussie mum trying not to lose my biscuits and my kids. As a mental health professional, I'm here to share my secrets so no other mother feels alone or powerless. Knowledge is power, and I want you to be powerful. Think of it like I'm your mindset coach through all of this. Everything is backed by science and psychology. I believe in you, and I want you to be the best version of yourself. To be happy and to feel in control, you need to be mentally strong. Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Mentally Strong Mums, and today I want to welcome two very special, amazing guests. And so today it's Jo as well as Amy. And so they're actually just around the corner from where I am, and they also like to support families, children, youth, and young adults. It's Joanne Fitzgerald Therapy.
Yep.
And so today they're going to be coming on to be able to let everyone know what services are out there, especially if you do have young kids, teenagers, or youth, and how they can support. So welcome, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Elena.
No, you're welcome. So just before we begin, if you don't mind, can you please introduce yourselves just so that everyone's aware?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm Jo. I'm the founder and director of Joanne Fitzgerald Therapy. And yeah, I'm a couch psychotherapist.
Wonderful.
My name's Amy. I'm a psychologist and I work with Jo. We started running some groups together this year, and then I'll also be doing individual therapy with Joanne Fitzgerald Therapy next year.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah, so I guess my practice started as just me about a year and a half ago, and now it's kind of evolved. Amy and I started doing DBT groups this year, and then now we have Sash on board, who couldn't be here today, and the three of us are sort of, we're kind of joining our practice together, and both Sash and Amy are going to run groups and do individual therapy with me next year, which is really exciting. So everything's kind of evolved and progressed to a really exciting space that I'm really, really happy with where we're heading next year.
That's really good. So if you went from individual clients to group sessions, especially with kids and youth, what helps you just make that decision?
As in, like, to run groups, like how we made that decision to run the groups. Yeah, I guess Amy and I started talking about DBT, and I felt like there was kind of a need in the space, particularly for youth and young adults, for DBT specifically. Dialectical behavioral therapy is, really evidence-based. And we know that when youth and young adults engage in DBT groups, they see a lot of results and a lot of success from that. So that's how that conversation between Amy and I started, is there was really not a lot of groups in our community that we could see. And so we really wanted to try and fill that gap. And that's sort of how it started and evolved. And then when we had Sash on board, she really wanted to provide support to youth and young people who were maybe experiencing social anxiety or having difficulties engaging in social situations. So that's kind of how that evolved as well.
That's really amazing. So for those people who are listening who have never heard of DBT before, how would you be able to explain to someone who's literally never heard of DBT what that stands for, where does that come from, and what does that look like?
So Dialectical Behavior Therapy, DBT, was created in the 90s by Marshall Linehan in the US, and he made it specifically for people who have experienced trauma, people who have borderline personality disorder, because these people, they really struggle with regulating their emotions, so kind of staying level. They kind of go in between really extreme highs and really extreme lows and do a lot of self-destructive behaviors. And this is all because they don't have better and more healthier coping skills to get them through difficult situations. And it kind of keeps the chaos going throughout their life. And this is also kind of what teenagers look like sometimes. Like, they are going through so much change. Puberty brings huge changes in our brain development, but also with our hormones. And so teenagers are just like riding an insane roller coaster
We've
all
all
the
been
time.
there.
Yeah.
We've all been there. We all
Yeah.
know what it's like.
Yeah. It's a really hard time. Like being an adolescent is really challenging, especially like the world keeps changing. And so DBT has been adapted for different age groups, but also for different disorders. But it's basically a type of therapy that uses very practical skills. So skills about regulating emotions, tolerating distress. And what that means is that coping with the pain that is just part and parcel of life. We can't avoid pain. It's like stressful things come up, people we love pass away, like we go through breakups, we have fights with our friends. And rather than engaging in self-destructive behaviors that just make everything so much worse, DBT aims to teach young people how to kind of get through those situations. It doesn't always make those situations better, but it helps us to deal with them better.
That's a really lovely perspective to have. Like, you're not going to take you can't sometimes change everything, but it's helping especially young people understand how to navigate that. And people, especially who are older, we never had the, for a lack of a better term, the luxury of having someone to teach you these skills. We always think, imagine how much further we would be in life, or healthier relationships, or even have almost, if you don't understand regulation, how you actually have a choice over your responses and what happens when you're overwhelmed, especially you frontal, like the way that a teenage child, adolescence, all of that, how difficult it is. And then obviously if you mention anything like borderline, or if you're neurodiverse, and especially all those mums who have neurodiverse kids, and how your executive functioning is impaired, how it can be very, very difficult to be able to stay present and grounded and thinking without being impulsive.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I really like about DBT as well is that the skills are really practical. So what that means for parents is the kids are the ones engaging in the therapy in the groups, but parents can also kind of help their kids use those skills at home. There's a lot of acronyms in DBT. So we use a lot of, acronyms to explain what a skill is, and parents can learn those skills themselves. And then so when they're in the real kind of environment with their kids, they can help them implement those skills, and they can help them, develop healthier ways of coping. So it's really helpful for parents to learn some of those skills through their kids as well. And I love that part about DBT because it's just really skills based. It's really it makes sense. It's basic in a lot of ways, but it's really it provides a lot of success for people who engage in it.
I think that sounds amazing because it's like that twofold effect where if the parents are able to learn in these group settings, because then they can all integrate and have all of this at home, it then increases the bonds, increases the safety, which is their attachment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I know, like, every time I run these groups, I learn something new about DBT, and I learn something new about these skills. And so I know that, parents who also are wanting to find ways to help their kids and find ways to help their kids cope more healthily in environments, I know that this is really helpful for them as well.
Yeah. So when we talk about children, how little would the children's be if a parent or something was thinking maybe my child is potentially these behaviors or could have this diagnosis, and everything they're hearing at the moment is ticking the boxes. In terms of age of children to start within this, what would that look like?
So for our DBT groups, we're aiming our groups 12 plus. So sort of young teenagers up to young adults, so 20, 25. In terms of individual though, I see kids from sort of age 6 to 8, and I can definitely utilize things like dialectical behavioral therapy in my work with parents and children. But our group specifically is for that sort of teenage 12 plus.
Well, that's really good. I think as well, what I really love generally about groups is because we're mammals, we need safety in numbers. And sometimes if I feel like I don't have anyone else that looks like me or responds like me, I
Mhm.
feel like I'm the problem and there's something wrong with me. But if we're able to have a group and then normalize it, that there's someone the same age as me that's going through the same stuff, it can remove
Yeah,
that, the embarrassment,
absolutely.
stigma.
And I think particularly teenagers can feel like that a lot because it's such a hectic time for them, and they can feel isolated at times, and it can feel like the emotions that they're experiencing are isolated to just them. And so joining in with a group and hearing from other psychologists and therapists that like what they're experiencing is actually quite normal, can be really helpful for them as well.
Huge, massive, right?
Mm,
So I know
absolutely.
you've also got another group as well.
Mhm.
Could you let us know
Yes.
about that one too, please?
Yeah, so this is our social skills group. So this was a kind of an area that Sash, who's a psychologist, she has a lot of experience working with kids and youth who are kind of in the social anxiety, neurodivergent space.
Mm.
And she started to see a real, again, like this gap in the community, particularly in our, Brisbane community, where there wasn't a lot of um, resources for kids and parents to gain skills for those kids who maybe struggle socially. And so she kind of approached me about wanting to develop a program that's evidence-based, that's based on the kind of therapy that we know is helpful for this area. And so she's really developed this whole program, and it's going to be an 8-week program, and it's specifically for kids who maybe struggle to know like what to do in social situations, to know how to respond. There's topics like learning social skills, finding reliable sources of quality friends, like how to determine if a friend is the right friend for you, and setting boundaries in relationships. And each week will build on the previous week's content. This is really I'm really excited about this because this is going to be a really safe space for kids to come and practice these skills and learn how to, work in an environment that maybe feels really foreign to them, or, maybe they struggle in those situations. So, yeah, this is going to be a program that not many other clinics run. And so I'm really excited about how this will evolve and sort of where this will take us next year.
I think it's really, really exciting
Yeah, it is.
because
Absolutely.
sometimes that's what they say about school. You go to school to learn all this stuff, but you don't actually learn the fundamentals and basics of actually
Yeah.
it's like, and especially all the quote unquote problems and difficulties with social media interactions, and especially if I don't know if I don't have those social skills. I always say, with us as parents, sometimes if our own parents didn't have a good toolbox, I then might have their toolbox. So then if these kids still haven't upgraded their toolbox and they haven't learned these skills because their parents haven't had that or evolved or whatever barriers there are, even their primary caregiver, then at least these programs are huge to be able to help change the next generation and navigate all
Absolutely.
especially social media, and how when you're face to face, you can actually tell what's going on. But sometimes via text or a message, things can get misconstrued. Is that the correct word? Misinterpreted?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And particularly as a parent, I imagine it must be really challenging to have a child that's maybe struggling with like, severe social anxiety, or who are on the spectrum in that neurodivergent space. And those kids are the ones that kind of need an extra level of support. And this group isn't about encouraging them to mask they're who they are. It's not encouraging them to, conform to how we should act in society. It's kind of the opposite. It's encouraging and teaching kids who maybe struggle in that space to be their genuine, authentic selves, and to be comfortable with that, and to understand how their brain might work a little bit differently. But that doesn't mean that they can't have genuine connections with people and build genuine relationships and thrive in their social environments. And yeah, I just imagine like, being a parent and having a kid that struggles with that, this group is really going to help, again, parents learn these skills as well through their kids, and to sort of help them navigate this teenage life.
Yeah. Especially I think when there's extra stresses on in life. So if your parents are separated, and especially current economy, and then I get a lot of mums that come in with me for counselling and support, obviously.
Hmm.
And sometimes they feel the dire situation they are in, and they don't have any time for themselves, let alone how to teach this to their kids. So if they're able to
Yeah,
pockets together to do this with, huge.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes we just don't know where to start with something, and sometimes it can feel really overwhelming. And so we're hoping that these groups is just like a really good place for parents and kids to just have a starting place, a platform for them to engage and develop some new skills and just feel really supported in this environment as well. And we will be running groups, yeah, hopefully, for the foreseeable future. So kids can come back and they can engage in maybe different groups we're going to be offering next year as well. And it will be a nice place for them to come and feel safe to do that.
All I'm thinking in my mind is, golly gosh, can you imagine if this was normalized and this was easy, like,
Mm,
as you were saying in the beginning, like there's you filling the gap because there's not a lot of services out there. But if
mhm,
this was like a mainstream, normalized, every
mhm,
situation all the time,
mhm.
wouldn't that be phenomenal?
Mm.
It really would, yeah. And so hopefully one day we will get to a world where that's the case. But in the meantime, this is sort of our small part that we can do to try and help bridge that gap a little bit.
I think that's very special.
Yeah, yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. Do you both have like a little success story? So sometimes, especially as a mum, when you're
Mhm,
really overwhelmed and sometimes you feel like even though your kid is 7, they're too far gone, it's oppositional defiance disorder, they hate me, they argue with everything, and I have done everything within my power and I've gone to see these other people and it haven't worked. I feel like, and with humans, we need hope. So
mhm.
do you have a story, either of you, like a little success story of a child or a youth where you have experienced firsthand when you saw them in the beginning and how powerful either DBT or these social skills are that has got
Mhm.
to something on the other side?
Mm. Amy, did you have someone to share?
Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of like a young teenage girl that I met earlier in this year, and she's just really distressed. She's actually neurodivergent, and she was really struggling with a lot of things at school and socially, and started doing a lot of really self-destructive behaviors, hurting herself when she would become really distressed,
Mm,
like hitting herself, banging her head against the wall, and her mum was feeling so overwhelmed and not knowing how to help her.
mm,
And so we started with some very basic, like DBT skills, but also teaching her like social boundaries and giving her social feedback as well, like learning to understand like how does my communication affect other people. 'Cause sometimes when neurodivergent kids, it's like they think, well, this is how I meant it, so I don't like they shouldn't be reacting negatively to this.
Mhm, mhm,
And so helping teach that perspective taking,
mm,
mhm,
but also, like, building up her skills to tolerate the discomfort of, like, sometimes people are not gonna like me,
mhm,
um, or also sometimes I might make a mistake in a situation, but I know that things are gonna be okay. Building up like, we really built up her confidence to understand that not everything was so bad, I guess. I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase that, but it's like every time she would have a negative peer interaction, it would feel like the end of the world to her, and then that's
mhm,
what
sacrificing
Yeah,
anticipation, anxiety with,
yeah.
and then it's almost is then a conditioned social anxiety because of all the
Mm,
negative interactions and then being
yeah.
um uh well, that's neurodiverse,
Mm,
internalized. It's like that little
mm, mhm,
cyclone where you don't even have the capacity to see outside you because of the panic that's going on.
mm,
Even though your face
mhm,
is fine,
mhm,
the inside of you is just freaking out. That's,
mhm.
mm,
that's beautiful, Amy.
mm. So, yeah,
Yeah.
she's doing a little bit better. She still has her struggles, of course, but she now has some skills to, regulate herself and like get through painful moments so that she's not doing any of the like self-harming behaviors anymore, which is amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, she's like feeling a bit better socially, but also learning how to accept when like not everybody is going to like us, but looking for good quality friends and that quality over quantity as well. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people really struggle with that, like, oh, I need to have lots of friends. And especially with social media, they think like I want a really high like number of friends and they need everybody to like me, when it's like, hey, we don't like everybody else and not everybody is gonna like us. And learn to accept that, which is a huge part of DBT, is balancing acceptance and change. So learning to accept something, like accept the things that we can't change, but changing the things that we really need to.
I'm obsessed with that saying, quality over quantity, friends. And knowing the difference is huge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes,
and knowing which friends to foster as well, because that's really important. Sometimes there are friendships that, you know, maybe don't align with our own values and our own boundaries, but there are friends that really we can foster those friendships and invest a lot of time in, because they're going to create a lot of meaning to our lives.
Yeah. I love that story, Amy, because especially in the beginning, it's, as a mom, as a parent, it's so distressing to see your child like that. And a lot of, you can't help but blame yourself because they're having these behaviors. And especially coming out to be brave enough to go and seek help. And that's what I said, sometimes it's almost like to find the right therapist. It's like dating. So sometimes you be able to go out and find someone, but it's not a good fit. And if it's not a good fit, it's never going to work. And you and her were this perfect example of a beautiful fit where you both got along, it was mutually beneficial, and you just saw a huge positive result and change, which is lovely.
Yeah, that is a lovely story.
Yeah. And especially for a lot of the mums that I see and that trust me because we've done such amazing work together, they then want me to see their children. I feel it's very important for if you want your children to get some kind of help, therapy, counseling, psychology services, that you can't just see someone like me. You actually have to see someone who specializes in children. Could you help me explain why it's so important to mums that if you are looking for support for your children, why you need to not go to a quote unquote normal generic counselor, psychologist, psychotherapist, that you need to specifically seek out someone who works with kids?
Yeah, I think if you think of the difference between an adult and a teenager and a child, right? Like those three kind of phases of life, very, very different. Like the way that children respond and cope with things is very different to how teenagers and then adults. So if you have a therapist who has a lot of experience working with those age groups, they're going to have, you know, kind of the skill set based on their experiences with their clients, based on the training that they've done specifically on how to help children manage or how to help teenagers manage. I think, you know, therapists, they do generally have specializations, things that they're passionate about and things that they've maybe put more of their time into studying and working with. And it's just like anything, when you have a specialization in something, you are kind of more equipped to work with that particular presentation or that particular age group. And so I know, like for myself, I've only really worked with kids, teenagers, and sort of like young adults. And so my experience has been just with them. So I have seen a lot of clients in that space. So therefore I can say that I sort of specialize in that space because of my experience. Did you want to add anything, Amy?
I think it's, I agree with all of that. And then it's also important that the therapist can like connect and develop that therapeutic rapport, because so much of therapy is just the rapport and the relationship. I think it's something like 20% is the actual techniques you use, 40% is the rapport, so that therapeutic relationship, and then 40% like outside factors, like other things going on in the client's life that are going to come into, like that's going to affect their progress and how much they can get out of therapy. So it's
a good point.
some people are really amazing with kids. Like I feel like I work really, really well with young people, so like teenagers and adolescents. And then other people work best with adults, and it's like what you said, Elena, before about the dating thing. Like everybody has like different styles of how they relate to other people. And then so you want a therapist that's going to be able to connect like with your child or with your teenager, because your child or teen is going to feel like listened to and heard. And then that's when they are going to be able to have the most growth. They feel safe and they feel like they want to listen to this person. For some young people, it's like, maybe mum has already said some of this stuff to them, but they need to hear it from somebody else who's not their parent. They need it from somebody else, like outside of the home and outside of their situation, but somebody that they feel safe and comfortable with, they enjoy being around as well.
It's a good point.
I think that's
that
amazing.
rapport is so important.
Yeah, I always tell mums that are looking to go get their kids support therapy, whatever it is, exactly that, Amy, that if the child's not engaging or isn't comfortable or hates it or you're dragging them, there's a reason why that's going on. So you've got to be able to, as a parent, understand and respect what your child is trying to tell you. And when they're trying to tell you, actually listen to what they're saying, because that's the same thing. If you don't feel like, people aren't ever going to share if they feel shame or they don't. And I think that was Carl Jung that he said that the techniques are only 20%. It's because we need that connection and we need someone to know. And especially that's like that magic formula for your group programs, both of them, your DBT group program and your social skills program, because it's this holistic perspective, community approach, normalizing all of our behavior, but both of your the way that you can both speak is really nice and nurturing and non-threatening and compassionate, which then people then feel safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's really good. Hey, if you were going to, if a mum's was on the fence about a DBT program or social skill program, especially because we're in Brisbane, to be able to come and attend, what would you be able to inspire or give mum a hope about why this would be so beneficial, not only for her child, but also for the family unit?
I think, it's important to, I guess, understand that these groups like DBT and social skills groups are like really evidence-based. And so we know from a lot of experience in implementing these groups that they are proven by our research and our experience that they are really, really beneficial, and they are really, really helpful. And that, if their child is wanting to engage and wanting to kind of reach out and have a space where they feel comfortable and supported and they feel like they can learn these new skills, that it is only going to improve their way of coping, and it's going to help them build those skills. And, it's, like these are so evidence-based. We know from 50 years of research, like Amy said, DBT's been around for a long time now. We know that it works. We know that it's really helpful. And so we do these groups because we know that they work.
As well as like with these really practical skills, is even if like the adolescent learns, the teenager will like learn a lot in the group, but they also go home and teach their parent. It's like these skills that anybody can use as well. So it's like, Joe was saying earlier how the parents will be able to like help prompt the teenager of like, well, why don't we do the tip skill, or like, why don't we do like some of these deep breathing exercises, or should we do one of your accept skill, and like having these really like being able to give their child options of like, which one do you think is going to be helpful right now, and like helping to guide them of like, let's do something really practical, because sometimes it's like asking like someone, what do you need right now to feel better? And it's like, if they're very overwhelmed, they're not going to know. They're not going to be able to answer the question. But also with practical skills, everybody can benefit from them too. So it's like they're adolescent, but then I feel like parents can get something from it as well. And they can learn about Like some of these practical skills are like looking at our lifestyle and looking at like how we look after ourselves. And I know that many parents can struggle to keep up with their own self-care sometimes because they're so busy.
Yeah.
And so learning about this information like through their adolescent, I feel like can only benefit parents as well.
Mm,
Mm.
that's a good point.
I think that's beautiful. And I think that's exactly, I think, what a majority of parents are just really desperate for. And it
Mm,
sounds like DBT is beneficial for everyone. And especially if you can learn
yeah.
all the principles instead of what do you think about this or what do you feel or what do you, like, it's
Mm,
actual, this is what you do. These are the steps. These are the tools. Remember, go back to this and this is where you're at. So then at least it's almost really beautiful, concrete. Mom, are you doing this? Child, are you doing this? So I think it's
yeah.
definitely beneficial. So you're going to be starting in January.
So it'll be week 2 of term 1, which I think is the 3rd of February that week. And it'll be Monday afternoon and evenings, depending on which group you'd like to engage in and depending on which age group you're in. And we are running that out of our Ashgrove location, so not quite in Arana Hills. We've got a new group space that we're opening up next year, which is very exciting.
Yay, that's great. So
Yeah.
for anyone that's interested, wants to be able to either go into these group programs for BT, for social skills, if you've loved Joe and if you've loved Amy, especially for your children and what they have to offer, what their approaches are, how they're different, and how your children benefit with all of this as well. I invite everyone to go onto the website, which is joannefitzgeraldtherapy.com.au. JoanneFitzgerald therapy.com.au. Otherwise, you can also go onto Instagram and have a look at Fitzgerald Therapy, Fitzgerald. And if you want to be included or a part of this, whether it be, I assume, a child, youth, teenager, adolescent, mother, parent, caregivers, even if it's grandparents that would love to do this for their grandchildren, I think that would be welcome. But also any other practitioners, if you're listening to this and you would be able to connect with either Joe or Amy, obviously go to their website, joannefitzgeraldtherapy.com.au, because I think it's something that we need more of those connections and normalizing and referrals to as well. So I really appreciate both of your time today. Before you go, did you want to say anything else?
No, I don't think so. Thank you so much for having us. It's been great.
Thank you for having us, Elena. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been really nice. It's been lovely. And I love the non-judgmental approach that when things are too much and things are a lot, especially with your example, Amy, it gives you hope that you're like, man, that was wild, but I've found someone. I've found someone, an expert to help, as opposed to just, and we all know what it's like to feel alone. And sometimes when you feel like your body is betraying you and you don't know what's going on, being brave enough to reach out and seek someone is the first thing. But obviously, remember, dating, and if you don't get along with the first person, it's not your fault. There's nothing wrong with you. Just find your vibe, find your village, find your tribe.
Yeah. Sometimes it can take a bit of time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
All right, well, thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will speak with you soon. So everyone go and have a look. It's amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode, and for that, I want to thank you for your support. It takes me hours to research and create this for you, so I genuinely hope you enjoyed it and felt more mentally strong. If you have any suggestions or improvements, let me know, because I'm always open for criticisms. If you have found my information useful, please leave a review and subscribe. So by leaving a review, it's a value exchange. It's good karma. I value your support just as much as you value my free information. So find me on Instagram and Facebook by searching Mentally Strong Mums, and I'm Aussie, so it's spelled MUM. And then you can find heaps of resources on www.mentallystrongmums.com. And this podcast is for you, so let me know what topics you would like to see covered in future episodes. And if yourself is a professional that is working with mums and would like to be a guest to help other mums be mentally strong, I would love to support you. So message me on Instagram on Mentally Strong Mums, MUMS, all one word. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful day, you beautiful mum.